Ipswich Town's early season issues of getting meaningful efforts on goal finally saw them lose a game yesterday as buoyant Preston continued their excellent record over Town and left Kieran McKenna with more questions than answers. Join us as we debate them here on Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast. Welcome to Blue Monday. I'm a late stand-in. This is my hat-trick ball appearance of the week. Apologies there's no Ben. Apologies there's no Mikey either. Get well soon, Mikey. And apologies there's no Craig. But we do have the two wise men at least, Joe Fairs, Dave Diamond. Dave, we'll start with you. How you doing? And, I mean, just give us your sense of how things are right now. It's a bit of a strange time to be an Ipswich fan, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very odd, particularly if we're all involved in the Telegram chat. It's very odd, very mixed. Kind of frustrating really. I think as much as anything, but I think sometimes par for the course for relegated teams. Parachute teams and sorting out this transfer window, which seems to last forever. Thank goodness it finally finishes this very time next week. So I think everybody will be pleased when that's over, and hopefully some more much needed, I would say, bodies in the house. But at the moment, all a bit disjointed. Is that the right word? I don't know. It's a bit frustrating. Yeah, I'd say a little bit disjointed at the moment. I'd say, but no surprise when there's been so many ins and outs to now.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely talk more about that. We also need to say hello to Colin. You want to say hello to Colin, didn't you, Dave? Very quickly.
Yeah, Colin. No, great to have you back in the chat, mate. And hope you're doing well.
Yeah, here. Joe, we were talking Friday, weren't we? Blimey, that feels ages ago. Casey McAteer's arrival, and I think there was some good feelings around other transfer deals, which of course we'll probably come on to later. But it kind of feels like there's a bit more urgency, certainly around maybe the midfield and attacking midfield areas. We talked about Wolfenden and I think it's Caceres. I think we were corrected by Jack, weren't we, over the weekend? Any feelings about the need for bodies in the building? I think it was bodies in the house that Dave said, wasn't it? Bodies in the building. We might need to recalibrate our expectations, perhaps, or are you still going for the big marquee signings?
Yeah, well, look, I think we still need the big marquee signings. And when you look around, not only in the Premier League, but Southampton, I think they're just losing or in the process of losing Tyler Dibbling to Everton. Fernandez is still a big offer on the table for. Leicester have obviously lost McAteer last week. They've El Canoes is looking like he's going. There's still going to be huge amounts of big deals going through all this week, all the way through to the window next Monday. So we've got to make sure we're in the game and we pick up the right ones at the right prices. But I think we knew that this is going to be a bad month, a hard month to work our way through, and it's proven to be so. Probably a little bit tougher than we'd have hoped it to be. But even, like you see, we get Casey McAteer in, who's what we needed on that right-hand side, and McKenna talks about that straight-line pace, getting in the box, holding his width, physicality. But he's not ready because he signs on the Friday ahead of the third game. He's effectively still not ready. He might be ready now for the Derby game next week, which is the fourth game of the season, and then we've got the big 2-week break after the squad is set, and I think that's really almost when our season begins, isn't it? And you just hope you don't get too far adrift before that point.
Yeah, we'll talk more. We'll do the roundup. It does feel like a bit of a strange division, certainly when you see at least one of the teams in the top of the division. But we've talked about other teams. We'll talk about the team at the bottom of the league, frankly, too. But let's jump into Preston and welcome everyone in the chat. Do keep your comments coming as we go through the action and obviously through the Q&A later on. A few people have mentioned the word therapy. I don't think we're quite there yet, but I'm hoping that Dave and Joe can help make sense of things for us. First off, Dave, riddle me this: an unchanged lineup from the Southampton game yesterday. That gives you Palmer in goal, a back four of Davis, Greaves, O'Shea and Johnson, Taylor Mattisey were in midfield, Philogene, Smodic and Clark behind George Hurst. Happy with that?
Yeah, I think so. I think, wasn't a totally worldly performance against Southampton the week before, but certainly I think on the second half showing, as we said on the pod sat here last week, saying that we probably shaded it and played quite well in the second half. So yeah, everyone's fit there, so probably that 11 deserved the start again. Might have been a squeak shout for Chaplin perhaps on one or two moments from last week, but no, happy enough with that really.
Yep, I guess Joe. The headline there really is a few. Dave mentioned Chaplin there. I think I'm really sad about this one, but there were some question marks about Jack Clark, and that lineup with Philogene on the left has Clark on the right. And in hindsight, with Ogbeni on the bench or McAteer, probably too soon for him. Was that the right call? I guess we'll never know now, but that was maybe the question mark area, wasn't it? Apart from the 10 position, Smodic versus Chaplin.
Yeah, I'd have liked to have found a way to either start Ogbene or McAteer on that right-hand side, but neither of them were obviously deemed ready or able to play the biggest chunk of that game. So we persisted with Jack Clark out in that position, and I think he's struggling on the left for Ipswich, let alone on the right, and it sort of carried on with the case yesterday.
Anything else that you wanted to draw attention to there? I think it's Ashley Young, maybe the only other name there, but Ben Johnson's had a good run, hasn't he?
Yeah, I'd like to see Ashley Young in the team. I think he just offers us that little bit more than what we've got. But yeah, whilst it's not a new team, there's a lot of new partnerships looking to develop in that team.
And an excellent bit of punditry for Mr. Young this afternoon for Sky, wasn't it? In terms of Dave, I'll talk to you about the bench then, because we talked about the unchanged lineup, and in theory, that's the kind of thing you want to see, I guess, to Joe's point, off the back of a victory. But a draw at Southampton isn't to be sniffed at. But this bench sounds a lot more stronger than last week's. Walton, Kipre, Wolfenden, Young, Kayusta, Chaplin, Ogbene, McAteer, and Chuba Akpom found his way onto the bench. That's a pretty decent bench, isn't it? I mean, maybe not all fit, but
very much. Yeah, as you said, not quite. I'd say 100% fit, or perhaps more pertinent, 100% match ready. But yeah, much stronger. You were looking at the bench from the week before, and it's not too much there, but a lot stronger this week.
Yeah, Preston unchanged too. That's Everton in goal. I think it's a back three. I might be a back four. I've got Thierry Small, Andrew Hughes, Lewis Gibson, Paul Valentin, and then Alfie Devine, Ben Whiteman, McCann, and then two very big Land of the Giants strikers in someone we bloody love. A few run-ins, as we talked about on pre-match, with Michael Smith, once of Sheffield Wednesday, and Milutun Asmajic. More on him later on. Joe, your take on Preston, you kind of know what you're going to get there. We've got Paul Heckingbottom in the dugout. He's talked about the money isn't there, but you're going to get a pretty physical battle with 6 foot pluses across the pitch and a lot of hard work. And probably what we're going to talk about later, but your take on Preston.
Yeah, and it was exactly as you sort of described and said it was going to be in the pre-match, really. A big team, big players, physical, no sort of quarter given or asked. And I think that just a frustration, as it turned out to be, is when you give them that head start, they're going to be very, very difficult to break down, and they're happy to defend. They're happy just to sit back and defend the whole game, which they were. And it's just one of those sort of days, wasn't it, when you're up against a side like that? And yeah, I don't think, I'd say, you knew what you're going to get, and they turned out to be exactly that, didn't they? Yeah,
no surprises there. Do you want to talk us through the opening stages up to a bit of a disaster moment for Jacob Greaves?
Well, it was quite an end-to-end start, I thought we got in quite quickly in the first minute or so and had a shot and went back the other way. But they were just chucking balls into our box at every opportunity. That must have been about the 10th cross that went in, which led to what was the goal. But I thought we started okay, but they were willing to push the wing-backs up. I thought the left-back Small was sort of getting into a good bit of space a few times. Looked a couple of miscommunications down that right-hand side between Johnson and Clark as to who should be going with him. And then just the ball, there's just a cross into the box. It goes up. I think Greaves probably is fouled maybe, but you've got to maybe be a little bit stronger there. And then he then makes a challenge from that position, which you just can't make. And the ref gives a penalty, and then that was almost all she wrote, really, in that regard. But yeah, like I say, I think Greaves could probably be a little bit aggrieved that he doesn't get a free kick given for him. But I also think that when you're down laying on the floor and you've got someone over the top of you, you can't try and kick the ball away through their legs because you just gave the ref. Once that foul hasn't been given, that you're in a new phase of play and you've then got to act like that, and he didn't.
Yeah, agree with that, Dave?
Yeah, 100%. I think Joe's right. Greaves has got to be a bit strong. I mean, Osmage, we know, is a beast, and he is. He's a physical bloody specimen. That's his game. That's his game. So Greaves, could have been a bit strong. It was just sloppy. The ball is. Smith gets a good header, I think, at the back post, and he's relatively unchallenged. Although he's a giant, isn't he? And he just sort of heads the ball back, and as soon as it drops, you kind of know you're in trouble. People swinging at the ball, and obviously Greaves goes to ground. And as Joe quite rightly said, he's trying to hook the ball away, but from that position, yes, it's contact with Osman, and the ref said, "Give the ref an excuse," and he was pretty. He was pretty positive. It was a penalty pretty straight away. He didn't give it any thought really.
And I guess in hindsight, Dave, as well, Osmage has still got a few players. There's a bit of a crowd around him to get his shot off, isn't there? And again, we kind of the cliche, trust your keeper. I guess more on that in a second. But he's still got plenty to do there. As much as it's a stupid foul, there isn't really no need for it either, I would say.
No, really. He's big, isn't he? So initially he's back to goal, and he Greaves hooks him when he's turning. So he's turning to get the shot away, trying to get the ball out of his feet onto his right foot. And that's when Greaves tries to hook the ball away and hooks his contact with a player and hooks a player. I mean, he's pretty close in, isn't he? Well, was he penalty spot? Was it perhaps maybe a little bit closer than that? But yeah, perhaps a little bit to do. But as Joe quite rightly said, making a challenge when you're grounded like that is asking for trouble, really.
Yeah. And Joe, do you want to talk to me about Alex Palmer's technique to try and put Osmage off? Because it doesn't really work, does it?
Well, it's the opposite to Peter Shilton, wasn't it, that they was talking about in the 1990 World Cup, where he'd wait to see where the ball went and try and follow it there. I think Palmer does the opposite, where he just likes to dive one way really early and see if the ball hits him. But it's not a great penalty saving technique. I've been disappointed maybe with our goal, like we lost 3 penalty shootouts and in McKenna's time. And I think after the Nottingham Forest Cup game was really evident that their keeper had a water bottle full of all our penalty takers, all their prep done on it, and we didn't even have that for a shootout against Nottingham Forest. So I wonder how much prep is done on that, but it wasn't a good attempt to save the penalty for me. I think it's just going one way and hoping the ball hits him. But it's like I say, it's difficult to criticise Keith from a penalty because you don't expect him to save it, but also try and make the striker work a little bit harder.
Yes, he doesn't really give it. Yeah, I don't know whether Osmage gives him the eyes, but he goes down very early, doesn't he?
Goes a bit.
From that point on, Dave, it's kind of like we're back in the League One days, isn't it? Really, certainly the early McKenna era. A few people have mentioned that in the chat already. I need to very quickly say thank you to Chris, by the way. Chris, our mate in New Zealand, morning from Queenstown, New Zealand. Disappointed, but Chris, still think we'll finish top. So thank you for the super chat, Chris. Always great to see you with us, and another supporter of the podcast that we appreciate. And if you want to do likewise, there's a button in YouTube, but just let us know you're there by giving us a thumbs up. We appreciate that. But thank you, Chris. Yeah, it kind of felt like Ipswich toiling against low block teams or high energy pressing teams from League One, didn't it? After that, we had a lot of the ball, but didn't really know what to do with it, did we?
We did, and obviously when we did get the ball in good positions, perhaps our decision making was poor, or the final ball was poor. I thought Davis, although playing in a slightly, perhaps with this inverted thing, perhaps playing slightly different to how he has played, I thought his offensive play was some of the worst I've seen from him since he's been there. Really, it was just he just could not pick the right ball. We just didn't. Someone in the chat this afternoon made a good point. When we were Championship, League One Championship, was a case of Davis getting to the byline, Burns getting to the byline, pulling the balls back, either whoever running onto them, midfield players, whoever running onto Chaplin, for instance, would finish. There was just really none of that. We just didn't seem to have that drive. However, in fairness to Preston, they're really well set up, weren't they? They got into that low block and really were rigid in it, and it made it tough. They were happy for us to play virtually in front of them, which is absolutely fine. Sucked us in a bit, really. The first goal in a game like that is, I know it's an old football cliche, but especially Preston away, a game like that, always going to be important. And if you concede, it's going to be tough.
I think we'll talk through the action and then kind of come back to this folk in the chat already, and please hold those thoughts because we will come to them about what we need to do differently in an attacking sense, because there are some moments in the first half, aren't there, guys? There's a shot from Johnson from the edge, there's a Clark cross into Hurst, isn't there? There are attempts there, but either it's that last pass or it's the decision making, Joe, isn't it? And can you talk to us to what the situation is there? Because we're having the kind of territory, we're having the ball, aren't we? But these high value signings, it's just not working, is it?
Well, we're trying to do something different this year, and I think if anyone was in a Telegram, they'd have seen a message Sean sent about it in there. I did a long message explaining our tactics this year. But when you look at previously, we've had a sort of, when we attack, you attack like a 3-2-5, and it would be from the left, Leif Davis, then sort of a Nathan Broadhead or whoever is a left 10, your striker, George Hurst, Liam Delap, then a Connor Chaplin or a Murray Hutchinson trying to knit it together, and then a Wes Burns or whoever on the right-hand side. At the moment, we're trying to have Jaden Philogene right out on the left flank, Leif Davis playing inside, I guess, so it makes it easier for him to get back or affect the game more from there. And then rather than have someone dropping into play on the right-hand side, you've got a Sam Smodics or a Tuber Akpom who are trying to get up and support George Hurst, and then Jack Clark out on the right. So it feels like we're trying to do something different. We've got, whilst a lot of the players were here last year, we've got quite a few different combinations throughout the team who haven't played together. And there's some really good bits of play. And also Leif Davis and Jaden Philogene. Like Jaden Philogene makes a great run. Leif Davis bursts into the box and then doesn't really do anything with it. It's almost like, well, just keep going and have a shot. And then there's another one where we work it really well and Jaden Philogene plays the ball to Leif Davis and he sort of maybe puts it a yard behind where it needs to be, and then Leif Davis doesn't get a cross out, or Jack Clark gets away and maybe doesn't play the cross on time. It feels like the back of the team is working well. I know obviously Jacob Greaves had a couple of issues, but between O'Shea and Greaves, I think defensively we're looking very solid. In the main, we're letting in one goal a game, but generally it's not a frustrating one to concede. I think at right back, Ben Johnson's slowing it down a little bit for me. I'd rather see Ashley Young in there, who seems to be a lot crisper with it. I actually thought Jack Taylor had a good game in there yesterday. I thought him and Mattassi were building a good partnership, but that front five are just not moving the ball quick enough with enough intent, and they're just not creating enough. And when they do create anything, the quality of shot has been quite poor as well. The finishing quality has been poor as well. So I'm not in the baby out with the bathwater camp. I think what we're doing is working and it will work. It's just not quite clicking yet. So you're just sort of trying to go through those gears as quickly as possible.
And Dave, the second half is much of the same, isn't it? There's a raft of substitutions, including a debut for McAteer and a debut for Akpom, and everyone wants to see Connor Chaplin. He makes an appearance. Kayusta comes on, but it all feels a little bit samey, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's one good chance when Matt Seawer plays in Smodics, doesn't he?
Great ball,
again,
isn't it?
Defender does really well again, doesn't he? And I don't know, McAteer had been on the pitch maybe 5 minutes, had he sort of thing, perhaps. Had he been on for longer, he may have been a bit steady. It wasn't the easy of the chances, but kind of rushes it and hits it over the bar. But yeah, it's just that lack of creativity, really. Someone in a game yesterday that cries out for someone with that creativity spark to unpick the lock. You know what I mean? Someone just a little bit like, you can't keep, he's gone, but someone like a Hutchison, that sort of, to just do something different. We'll get to, I'll give you Leicester yesterday. We'll get to the scores in a minute. Fatawi's goal, you couldn't really see that happening from anyone yesterday. Just not going to happen. Yeah, it's just really, really frustrating. Just frustrating, really, because you see, as long as it just didn't look like really scoring the longer the game went on. And I must say, Mike, I think in the chat just said it. Wow, our set pieces were dreadful again. Absolutely dreadful. We never win the first header. We never win it. It's absolutely dreadful.
I think maybe a little bit more understandable when you see that Preston side yesterday, weren't they?
Well, yeah,
that's true.
Joe,
but there's one that Everson spills, isn't there?
I agree, Joe. You're quite right. But the delivery just wasn't great. I think twice, perhaps. David Hobby Horse hit the first player from the corner. They were, really, really poor, I thought, yesterday.
And that's it, isn't it? When your standard pattern of play that we love to talk about on the pod,
Ain't working.
Isn't working. Your star player, you talked about Amari being the person to unlock the key. That unlock the lock with the key. With is that Philogene to me? That's Philogene's job, isn't it? And when that stuff is exhausted, Dave, then you're trying shots from range and you're trying set pieces. And we won a lot of free kicks. And Preston, the game plan really clear was to stifle the game, and lots of stupid yellow cards and very S-housery, a little bit. Terry Small was it who went down with McAteer, and Osmarich I think gets a booking for not retreating the yards, but that's their game plan. They've got the goal lead. It's on us, isn't it? And it's just gone on too long, this set piece situation.
They did it. They did it the week before against Leicester, didn't they?
Yeah.
There are no mugs there. There certainly are no mugs at all at Deepdale. But yeah, it was. You're right. If our general play isn't working and there's no real spark there, then you are relying on set plays. But yeah, I thought they were really bad yesterday, and have been so far, I think.
So what's the summing up from this, chaps? I mean, I can give you some stats, and we're gonna do a bit of a chat in it after a little bit of a break, perhaps on shots on target. But 72% possession. I know folk love XG, so I'll give you the XG 1.39 to 0.84, and I think that's 3/4, if not 90%, the penalty.
Yeah, 0.79 is the penalty.
There you go.
Is that right?
0.5. I think someone posted that in the chat earlier. 15 shots in to 2, but 2 big chances to 1. Both obviously missed from our perspective. Just to chuck this out there as well, more stats at you. We are now 22 games without keeping a clean sheet, which ties a club record from 1954-55 season. Thank you to TWTD for digging that one out. Where do you want to go on this one, Joe? I mean, just to sum it up, because we could talk about the red kit. That's a bit of a hoodoo. Why we're wearing that? We talked about that on Friday. We've got a shocking record at Preston. Preston started the season really well, beat Leicester, as you mentioned, the week before. But it's more about us, isn't it? This defeat.
Yes and no. I think if Preston score that early goal, they then defended the game very well from there. Whilst we did have a lot of shots, they weren't well executed. They weren't well taken. And I think it was probably one of those games where the Preston fans in the stadium were quite nervous. But if you were to actually watch it as a neutral observer sitting on there, I don't think they were under a huge amount of pressure. It didn't feel like the goal was coming. So yeah, just a good win for what is a decent championship side, a side that will, of course, but I think they've only lost 4 out of the last 24 at Deepdale, haven't they? And you can see why they're a hard team to play against there. And yeah, it's one of those ones where had we equalised, it wouldn't have been undeserved. But it's just a frustrating game. We did enough to equalise, but without ever really looking like we would do.
Yep. Dave, agree with that?
Absolutely. Their game plan would have been exactly that. I would have thought. Get the early goal, and defend for our lives, but get the early goal and then force it, make them force it, which they did, and we weren't quite good enough. Just one shout out for Clark. There was the best ball of the game, where he did actually get out of his feet on the right and bent it round the full back. And you could say Hurst was a little bit unsighted there, but he should do better there. He's got to be anticipating that, hasn't he? He's literally very close, 3 or 4 yards out there. So something like that goes in, that gives Clark confidence, and you're often running with a nice assist, nice goal, but wasn't to be yesterday. And I think Joe's right. Preston will be strong at home for sure.
Yeah. Should let's deal with this now. We had some really good chat in Telegram, which we want to share some bits and pieces. I'll start with the bad, really. This is the shots on target per game average for the season so far, with Ipswich rock bottom by quite some distance, 1.3 shots on target per game. And QPR, Swansea the next, and it's almost double. Preston are up there, but I guess if you score a penalty, then you don't really need to. Actually, some good goals from Osmarich actually to dink over the keeper at QPR, wasn't it? But Derby up there, that might be helpful next week. Birmingham, as you say, talk about their game against Oxford, but that doesn't look good, does it, guys? I mean, shots on target, is that too much to ask for?
And it says it, our 2 goals are a penalty and an own goal.
And I think as we'll see when we go into the next stats, the XG is a better measure than shots on target, and you'll see where the big discrepancies are, where it's coming. And this is, or maybe if we do the other ones first, Rich. Sorry on that.
Yeah.
So this is one. Yeah, this season. So shots on target percentage. So we're hitting the target with 8.3% of our shots at goal. Sheffield United are 19% seconds. So basically, they're like 1 in every 5 is hitting the target. We're 1 in every 10. And then at the top, Stoke, Middlesbrough, 45, 41%, sort of 2 out of every 5 hitting the target. So it's just a massive variance. Effectively, you can't. This won't continue. Like to hit the target of 8% of your shots is just impossible to carry on for the season. And if you look at how this ended last year, so at the moment it's running from 8% to 45. Last season, the Championship, Norwich were the most shots on target percentage, 35%, and West Brom were bottom with 28. So all 24 teams compressed into that area, basically between 30 and 35%. So our 8% of shots on target is going to increase up to that 30% range, and when it does, we'll score more goals. And it's just incredible how badly it's going at the moment. Like if we're having 15 shots a game, that's probably what we were having when we got promoted in 23-24. But if you're only getting one or 2 of those on target per game, you're just not going to win games. So it's at the moment, I think everyone in the chat will probably agree that we're not playing fluidly going forwards. We're not doing as well as we should. But if you look at the XG table, which we just had up here, we're like 5th in the table there, and every game we should have scored more goals than the opposition, all 3 of them. And when you look at the opposition we played, Birmingham are 2nd in the table, Southampton are 4th in the table, and Preston are 8th in the table. So we've played 3 of the top 8 teams, and in all 3 of those games, so in all 3 of their games, they've lost one of their XG battles and won the other 2, and we've won all 3 of ours. So we're playing teams that are playing well. We're bettering them, but our finishing quality is just not up to any standard at the moment. So I think this is what would give me any positivity. If you look at the positivity as an Ipswich fan, we're still we're not playing fluidly. I think everyone can look at it and say we're not playing fluidly. We don't look like we're creating a lot, but we're actually creating more than the opposition doing. We're just finishing badly. So I think everyone expects our attacking to improve, and it's improving from a base which isn't as bad as effectively it looks, just because we're not going to keep missing all these chances. It's just not possible to keep missing the target with 9 out of 10 shots. So it's going that way. And I looked at the bookies odds before I came on. I just sort of looked across Sky, Bet365 and Paddy Power, and we're still the 9-2 favourites to win the league with all 3 bookies. Birmingham are now 5-1 second favourites, Southampton 6-1 third favourites, and Coventry 17-2 fourth favourites, and Middlesbrough 9-1 fifth favourites. So I think you can see that whilst the start is not what we wanted, we could easily have had 5 or 6 points from the 3 games we played, but we've come out the wrong side of it with 2. It's just not. It's not fun at the moment, is it? It's very, very frustrating. And you look at August as a whole, and it was a month that needed to be endured, and everything that probably could go wrong is going wrong in it. Like you let in a 10th minute penalty to a team, they don't have a single other shot for the rest of the game, and they still manage to beat you.
The good news, Dave, is that August is over, isn't it? And the window's shut. But I guess if Ben were here, I'm the words that ring in my ear are regression to the mean. Our shots on target are so bad. Is that the conclusion that you're taking from Joe's, or anything else that you want to kind of observe from that?
Yeah, I suppose it just looks laboured, doesn't it? Everything looks laboured, and Joe said fluid. It's just not. We're not playing with any fluidity whatsoever at the moment. And look, it is early days. We are still betting in players. Bless our old friend Harry, who talks about partnerships. I think I saw something in the chat today that, and quite right, a team's got 5, has got 5, partnerships really throughout it, and it does take time. Yes, the vast majority of the players who started yesterday were here last year, but in a totally different context when you're absolutely getting walloped every week in, week out. So a different mindset. I think we'll be fine, but a big week this week. I mean, I think everyone in the chat can see that is clamouring for this sort of marquee, scary signing. Well, I think if we manage to get at least one of those over the line, that'll give, I think, everybody, no matter what, everybody a lift. But we shall see a big week coming up, because again, similar performance against Derby, and don't get a win against Derby, going into that international break, and it will start to crank up. It really will start to crank up.
Is that international break? I mean, parking the Derby game, which we'll talk more about next week, obviously, but it feels like McKenna needs a week, with 2 weeks with the players, doesn't he?
Yep.
You're spotting about those partnerships. A lot of people talking about Leaf and Philogene and whether they're up to speed, and that's Leaf was so important for us, wasn't he, previously? But it's across the park, isn't it? And we haven't really. I'm not sure whether Taylor Matasiwa is the first choice midfield too. I mean, both had pretty decent games by all accounts on Saturday, but is there something about confidence? I mean, we Craig's mate Yellow Shoes. There's something about getting the Premier League, kind of shedding the negativity, the kind of the strategy of contain and then counter, versus now having the dominance but needing to overwhelm and attack teams.
It's that losing mentality. He's won 4 games in 40, irrespective of, we were getting, as you said, in the Premier League, irrespective of it. It's that mentality. And the flip side to 23-24, it was completely opposite. You're coming in on how do we finish that previous season? 114 out of 16 or something ridiculous in League One. You've got that momentum driving you forward, no matter where you're coming from. Birmingham have got it to a degree this season. All right, they're not pulling up any trees particularly, but they're getting victories, picking up points. So it's still just getting out of that mindset, I think. But Derby, a win, then international break, 2 weeks with the players, hopefully 2 or 3 new players coming in this week, bed them in and ready to go against Sheffield United week after.
There you go, Friday night. We will be back after this to have a look at what happened in the rest of the Championship, and then plenty of time for your questions, so start thinking about those and get them into.
Blue Monday is brought to you in partnership with Atwell Solicitors, your ideal legal partner for property and business law. Whether you're buying a home, starting a business, or just need legal guidance, our dedicated team has got you covered. Trust our award-winning customer service team to handle your legal matters with care and expertise. Find out more at atwells.com or visit us at our offices in Ipswich, Colchester, London, and our new location in Woodbridge.
Thank you to Atwells and their support of the podcast across all of our free-to-access shows this week. In terms of what we've got coming for you, Joe and Craig had a midweek off because it was a little bit quiet on the transfer front, and then suddenly Friday it all kicked off. But we'll hopefully have some stuff for the guys to talk about midweek. Seb and I will be back for the pre-match on Thursday, and then back here again Sunday to talk about Derby ahead of the international break, and no doubt some summings up of the month that's just been, and or maybe not, frankly, depending on how Derby goes. If you are a top tier member, thank you to everyone who's got involved in that. You can see beyond the scoreline tomorrow. So more of an in-depth tactical look at Saturday's game and hopefully some areas of possible improvement. We'll also have plenty of blogs. Jack Saunders, our mate Jack, did us a blog from Preston that's up there, and there'll be others throughout the week. And then ahead of Derby, you'll find the weekend preview. So press the join button on our YouTube channel. Extra ad-free content to cover you for pretty much a whole week here on Blue Monday. Everything you need, links for free to access content, pod feeds, all that kind of fun stuff, and our merch store and our Telegram group, Blue Monday, itfc.co.uk. Let's have a look at what happened in the rest of the division. And I kind of mentioned it's a little bit balmy at the moment, not least at Coventry. I had to write out 7 in brackets there, guys, just to confirm the scoreline there. Coventry 7, QPR 1, but probably the headlines are towards the top of the division, where Stoke are a surprising front runner, along with Borough, who helpfully defeated them lot up the road. But yeah, Southampton defeated by Stoke there, so that's a good win for them to guarantee their position at the top of the league. Also going well, West Brom, although they were held by Portsmouth. Bit of a unhappy Ryan Mason with a penalty decision that didn't go their way there in that one. And Leicester, a good goal that got them up the points at Charlton. Down the bottom, guys, Sheffield United, bottom of the pile, defeated 1-0 by Millwall. Anything, Joe, you want to draw our attention to there?
I guess the things that we've spoken about, and which has been proven the case to be in the Championship over the last few years, is the parachute teams all find their way to the top end. Maybe not they all do, but the parachute teams find their way to the top end of the division. Southampton losing at home to Stoke is a good result for us in that regard. Sheffield United, I think they picked up a point. They lost again, didn't they? So they've got 0 points a season. That's good for us. Leicester, they somehow beat Charlton 1-0. But if you watch the game there, that was the sort of very definition of smash and grab. So we'll see where we go from there. But yeah, I think obviously the teams, Birmingham, Coventry, Middlesbrough, are the ones who were maybe in that sort of scene, in that next tranche down of teams from the parachute teams. They're the teams from that level. That included other teams, but they're the three from that level that have started really, really well.
Yep. Any shout outs? I mean, I'd quite like to shout out Sheffield Wednesday for all of the off-field stuff. Yes, a half decent point away there. They've actually not looked half bad. Wrexham, though, Dave, haven't yet got up and running, have they, despite all the marquee signings?
Yeah, well, and we kind of thought that though, didn't we? But yeah, 2 for Kiefer Moore, and they look to be absolutely rolling Sheffield Wednesday over. But our old friend Barry Bannon got one back and deserved it. Oh, and they could have won it last knockings. Don't know if you saw it on the EFL show. A hell of a chance. Literally last kick of the game. Really caught Wrexham on the break and point blank. Good save. Keeper stood strong. But no, they're considering all that of what the hell's going on there, all the off-field stuff. They're really making a good fist of it. But as someone said in the chat there, good times to be a Coventry fan. 12 goals in the last 2 games.
Good value from Frankie.
Yeah, well, yesterday especially, and as an ex-man of the Midlands, Rich, I think it'd be great to see Coventry back at the Ricoh Arena, and they have officially bought that now. I think Coventry have taken that back into ownership, and that was announced on Saturday morning or Friday night or Saturday morning. And so there was a sort of party atmosphere at the ground. Their fans have been through a huge amount over the last decade, and to find out you've done that, turn up in a great mood anyway, and then score 5 goals in the first half is fantastic times. Yeah, so great to see for a club that have been through a lot for Coventry there.
Yeah, kind of QPR just walked into that, didn't they?
Yeah, for a wrong place at the wrong time. Do you want to talk about Borough? I mean, the fact that they've Norwich have now lost 2 at home, haven't they? And 2-1 as well. But Finn Azaz linked with Southampton, Hayden Hackney linked with everyone, including ourselves, and yet still able to get the job done, aren't they? That's a decent result. He wants to take that one.
Yeah, I was speaking to a Norwich fan about, and he said it's the second home game that they've set up with 3 centre backs, 2 holding midfielders in front of them, and lost both times. And unless Manning, I'm not saying he's under pressure, but you're not
always slow starter, isn't it?
You're not going to get away with playing like that at Carrow Road and losing games because no fans want to see a team set up like that at home when they expect to be one of the better teams in the division. But yeah, Middlesbrough, well, and they're spending again, aren't they? They've bought a American defender for like £6 million who can't even join them till January. So they've bought him and he's gone straight back on loan to his MLS side to get him in January. And they're linked with another guy for 3 or 4 million. I think they're sort of ploughing through sort of African internationals in the French league. I think that's sort of their target market there. Guys, I don't know if they're first or second generation French citizens, but I think they're playing for like Nigeria or Senegal and some countries like this, and they're getting some real physical talent from that league at the moment.
Yeah. I think someone might have spotted an error in there. I'm not seeing it, so I'm going to stick with that. But I'm going to take it off the screen so people don't look at it in case I've made a mistake there. Let's go to the questions. Plenty of stuff coming in. Let's also firstly say thank you to David. Another super chat. Thank you, David, for your generosity again. Always a good support of the podcast. Thank you for that. As I said, you can do likewise, but we just appreciate a thumbs up or a subscribe. As we say, plenty of content coming your way on Blue Monday. And thank you to everyone listening in podcast lands. I always forget that we're putting stuff up on the screen. We'll share that in the Telegram group. Sometimes we post it on socials, but thank you if you're listening on your podcast app of choice. If you're walking the dog on your bank holiday Monday, thank you for having us with you coming in your ears, to quote Phoenix Nights. Anyway, moving on quickly. A question from before we even went live, chaps. From Thunderstruck. It's a little bit of a loaded question, which I'm going to aim straight at David Diamond. How long should it take a highly paid top-end championship players to gel? I mean, you have talked about it, to be fair, Dave. Like, a lot of these players in the kind of combinations and patterns, they haven't really necessarily played the way they're playing now, and last season's a little bit of an outlier. But is there a thought there from Thunderstruck that we should be expecting a little bit more?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, of course. But it does, as we know, as we said, it does take time to gel. It does take time to form partnerships. But the quality of the overall squad, we touched on it at the start. Look at the bench yesterday, the quality of the overall squad. I think it will. I think Thunderstruck, it will start to turn soon. You've got to reset. Let's hope it starts next weekend. I'm sure it will. And then hopefully we'll be up and running. Get that first win under our belts. Get that losing mentality out of the way. Then I think we'll be fine.
Easy, simples. Joe, Tom's kind of, it's more of a comment, but I'm going to turn it into a question. Can we talk about Chaplin or the lack of him? He's our best playmaker. I just don't understand it. We have talked briefly, very briefly, about the lack of on-field leadership in Sam Morsey leaving the club. Do we maybe need Chaplin in the team as well as for the Hollywood passes? Because he's got that leadership aspect, which I think we maybe lack.
I like the leadership aspect that Connor Chaplin shows. I think he's been an excellent player for us, but it looks like we're trying to do something with that 10 role by having Sam Smodics and Chuba Akpom signed. They look like guys that just want to be the sort of almost like a second striker playing off the shoulder, and I don't think that's really Connor Chaplin's role. And whilst I thought at Birmingham he came on looked really, really sharp, and sort of him and Ashley Young came on and really improved us straight away. I thought he was poor at Bromley. I thought he gave the ball away a huge amount of times there. And when he came on yesterday, I haven't looked at the stats, but it felt like he gave the ball away more times than he found a blue shirt or a red shirt, as it was. He just came on and just wasn't very good. I thought he was bad when he came on yesterday. So if Chaplin wants to be getting in the team and playing more, when he comes on for these 20, 25 minutes, he's got to play better than he did yesterday. And when he gets a start against Bromley, he's got to play better than he did against Bromley. And yeah, and I say that as someone who's been a massive fan of Connor Chaplin over the last sort of 3 years, and I thought we missed him big time last year when he was out. But he's got to be shown more than he has done when he does play, if he wants to win his place back in the team. And he's not a silver bullet that you put him in a team and he's going to sort everything out.
He was good again. To be fair, when he came on against Southampton, he was good. He played probably the ball of the season so far against Southampton. But you're right, Joe. Yesterday, he was poor.
He did drag a shot wide as well. Just quickly, Dave, you're Smodic in the 10 worked in pre-season, didn't it? But is it working now in terms of who knew? We saw him at Blackburn, and I know has he got a fractured arm or something? He's got a bit of a Jamie Vardy situation, wasn't he? But who would be your starting 10 of the two? Because that appears to be the only option we really have at the moment. Unless
I think I probably would at this moment in time until Akpom is up to speed. Yeah, you would. I think I would go with Smodics. Look, he was a bit unlucky against Southampton. Really unlucky against Southampton. The ball hits the post, comes out. He looked lively when he got in without really greatly affecting things yesterday when he got in. But at this moment in time, you'd go with Smodics. Really interesting that clearly when he did bring Akpom on, it wasn't a straight swap for her. So again, you've got to think this week that is a key signing to get some support, or some support in for Hurst, or some competition in for Hurst for that 9 shirt for sure.
Well, let me lob Neil's question at you then as well. So how many signings do you think we'll make before the window shuts? He reckons 2-3 top. I mean, is that 2-3 minimum?
I mean, I think you'd want a centre forward, not a 9. You want perhaps the marquee that we've hoped perhaps would have been. I won't say the name, the lad from Borough, but it's not going to be. And probably a right-sided player, don't you? Right-sided player as well. So I would say wish list 3, but it's probably going to be more like. So who knows? McAteer came out of the blue, pretty much caught us all by surprise last week. And this is how transfers happen, especially this crazy week. So, yeah, let's see. Crikey, we might end up with a Mexican midfielder, Uruguayan centre back, and a Greek striker.
There you go. Well, let me lob this. This is the perfect question for Joe Positivity Fairs here from Colonel Tructor Boy. Who's going to join an underperforming team with no confidence, no chance of being created, and a stench of defeat around? Tell us what you think, Colonel, around the squad. It's going to be a hard sell. Is it a hard sell, Joe?
I don't think so. I think it's only a hard sell when you're up against Premier League teams, and if we had 9 points and 10 goals in our first 3 games, it's still a hard sell against the Premier League team there. But in this league, we are the most attractive team in this league. There's a reason we're the bookies' favourites. We've got a great opportunity for anyone to come into this team and improve us. But yeah, there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work to do this week. I think it's a minimum, an absolute bare minimum of 2, a striker and a central midfielder. I think we need another, like a left-footed right winger, or who can play across someone like where we had Amari Hutchinson. He would come in like a Raksaki or this Ageli, somebody who can play off that right hand side as a almost just like an option when in a game where you're totally dominant and you're up against a low block and you need someone who can just go one-on-one against people and beat them and pull something out of nothing. I think we need, I'd say, like I say, centre forward has to happen, centre midfielder has to happen, and then this sort of versatile attacker with a left foot, dribbly left footer should need to happen. And then from that point on, it's going to be if this Caceres deal happens, or we can get a replacement lined up for Wolfie and Wolfie goes, which I don't want to see happen, but could happen, where we could fit a left back cover in the squad, whether we want to do something else somewhere else and there's another 1 in, 1 out. But I think it's going to be 3, maybe 4.
On that, Dave, Joe and I spoke about that on Friday, and Joe's going to give in a brief summary there. A question from another Neil: assuming we sign Caceres and Wolfie goes, where are we going to slot him into the system? He's not coming halfway around the world to sit on the bench.
Can you really see it? I mean, there's a lot of talk, isn't it? There's a lot of talk about that. But I, for one, would be sad to see Wolfenden go, really. But I can quite understand it. He needs to be playing. He's good enough to be playing first team football in the Championship. He really is. I think it was it Luke Chambers at our thing, wasn't it, who described Wolfenden and said he'll find his way whatever level he plays at. I think it's pretty good, because he didn't look really out of place in the Premier games last year, I didn't think, when he played. So he deserves.
And when you look at who he played against, Dave, as well. He played against Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal. He played all the hard games.
Absolutely. So he needs to be playing. And it will be sad because he's a local lad. It'll be sad if he does move on. But yeah, so you speak about the Uruguayan. We've got 24 caps for Uruguay. So he's obviously got a great pedigree. So, but again, is he gonna? He's surely not going to come and not be first choice, is he? Is he just going to come a big backup? Yeah. It's difficult.
It's a strange situation, isn't it? Yeah. I keep hearing this, Joe, and I've probably subscribed to this thought as well. Charlie D asks, are we overreaching with our hopeful signings? Do you want to talk to that one, and then whether that strategy is going to persist? For the Hackney, we've got a lot of people asking about Hackney. I'll ask Dave you about the central midfield situation in a second, but are we being too hopeful? Are we overreaching?
I don't know. I think it's easy to say that. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but realistically, there's been 2 transfers this summer where we've obviously spent a huge amount of time, got them right up to the line, haven't been able to get them over the line. One of them is Hayden Hackney, and that is because he wants a Premier League move or didn't want the move at that time. So, yeah, that is an overreach, that must have been an overreach. We must have had signals that it was going to happen, and we've really, really pushed and just weren't able to get it done. But it's difficult because you're probably sort of this close to getting a signature on a bit of paper that means that deal goes through, and then it's a fantastic signing. But because it doesn't happen, it's seen as an overreach. And then the other one is Ivan Azon, and that fell out because of a medical that his club weren't aware of, or rumoured to be a medical issue that his club weren't aware of. And same with Armando Broya last year. So sometimes these things can't be helped, but there's only really those 2 that are transfers that have got anywhere. If we've been too ambitious for a player, we've probably found out pretty early on that they're not interested, or it's not going to happen, or we've kept them on the back burner. So I wouldn't pay too much stock in that. I just think it's Hackney is one that we chased as much as we could and weren't able to get it done. I don't know if we'll go back into him. I personally don't think we will, or don't think it will happen if we do go back in for him. But I'm sure there's a lot of fans who would like us to go back in for him and maybe think we can get it done. But we'll see.
Yeah,
I guess another thing with Hackney, whether he was hanging on for a Premier move or whatever, it's always tough to move someone, I guess, from there. He's been their man and boy, hasn't he? Hometown boy, Borough supporter, Borough
big
fan.
move. Yeah,
it's a tough move for him. So, yeah.
Yeah. On that then, Dave. So Rob asks, do you guys feel that we need a creative central midfield to help unlock these teams that play the low mid block against us? I mean, that wasn't necessarily Morsey's. I see Morsey's role more dropping short to come and give the keeper an out ball and to turn and get us on our way. It wasn't necessarily springing people in behind, was it? Or am I being a bit creepy?
No, I don't. I think you're right. Yeah, Morsey was absolutely excellent at demanding that ball, either playing the bounce ball, spinning, turning away, and you're through the press immediately, aren't you? Absolutely through. He was the master of that. But that needs, and I'm sure Matasiwa will become that player, but it needs certainly time. It needs confidence. I thought he was good yesterday. He looks at bits and pieces, sort of player he's there as it gets his foot in. Not the most creative player, and nor is Jack. Taylor's a frustrating. I say a frustrating one because Taylor's the player who we know has got an absolute rocket. He's got a hammer of a right foot, hasn't he? Just engineer him in those positions, but it just doesn't seem to be. Well, he was the one that had the shot on target near the end. I think it was Taylor, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But he's the one that can give you that explosive sort of finish, and we've seen it, haven't we? But yeah, a bit of creativity in the centre there would certainly not go amiss. But yeah, those players, as we know with Hackney, are highly sought after, no matter what level.
But is it the be all and end all for us? It never felt like our systems when we had success of getting in behind teams was more about getting the ball up the pitch quickly or getting Leaf in behind, wasn't it? Cross field diagonals and all that kind of stuff. Which
I think we touched on it's just like tweaking of the system, though, isn't it? It is something slightly different. So maybe it will take something like that. But that would. Signing someone of that ilk this week, whether we do or not, in that central position with a bit of flair, a bit of creativity, would be a nice signing. I think definitely.
I just wonder how the squad sits there with because you can't play Kayust and Hackney, so I don't see
forget about Kayust, don't you?
how you'd fit it in there. So I just in a way I don't think the midfield was a problem. Like yesterday, especially, I don't think the midfield was a problem. I thought Matasiwa probably had his best game for Town. Did have his best game for Town yesterday. And I thought Jack Taylor was one of the guys that did get the ball up the pitch, got on the ball well, carried it up the pitch well, passed it well, moved us up the pitch. And I think we got the ball to our front five enough times with enough space to work into, and they weren't able to do anything with it. So I think like I say, if you look at the team, I think the sort of centre backs and the central midfielders are working well enough as they need to. Yeah, anything can be improved, but really at the moment it's sort of we haven't won, so we're looking at the whole team. And really, it's just the front five. They've got to do a bit more.
Yep. Surely, when he's fit, Kayust, it will be Kayust and Matasiwa.
Yeah, Kayust and Matasiwa, and I think even the couple of times Kayust has come on in the last two games, I think he's shown straight away that he can beat a player, break the press, move up the pitch, carry it forward and do bits straight away. So I think we're obviously there's question marks about his injury record and fitness record. Is he going to be able to play a lot? But I don't see how we can get into a position where you end up with Jack Taylor as your fifth choice midfielder or your third choice left-sided central midfielder. So unless something crazy happens, like we sign a Hackney or a Brownhill or whoever, something like that, Taylor we sell, we then have to buy another number 6 in there. And I'm not saying none of this could happen. I could see a lot more movement than we expect to see, but ultimately I think we're relatively well set in midfield. I think we just need someone to back up Matasiwa. We need to make sure Jens Kayust stays fit.
Yep. I'm trying to remember. I'll come to Dave on this one. Because I think Joe and I spoke about this one already, so I'll get your take on this. And from AFR Pete 26, I mean, asked what do we do about Jack Clark? Drop him to the bench, persist with playing him on left, or let him start? Why does he do it at Sunderland? I honestly, it feels to me that his options are narrowing. McAteer is and a fit Ogbeni are going to be the first choice down that right hand side because he's come in and just not been able to make an impact there. Is there a question mark, David? I talked to Graham Mack on Suffolk about just taking Clark out of the fire. He just doesn't look happy, confident. Is kind of the Sunderland player that tore us apart at Portman Road, and surely he's competition for Philogene down the left now. That's surely his future for us, isn't it?
I suppose at Sunderland he was the main man, wasn't he? He was absolutely that season. Well, it was 23-24, wasn't it? He was absolutely the main man and scoring goals, coming off the left, cutting in, scoring goals. He scored a hell of a goal at Portman Road, didn't he? Absolutely brilliant goal at Portman Road. It's a classic almost winger's tale, isn't it? He's just absolutely lost, bereft of confidence, really. You can see it. He's makes sort of poor decisions, and again, just needs something, just a trigger, something like that. Like the ball to Hurst, he scores that, just a good assist or something like that. But yeah, surely the manager's patience can only last so much longer, and you would think that maybe take him out of the firing line, certainly. I'd be very surprised. Well, yes, I'll be very surprised if he starts the next game. I think and he might well be absolutely far better now coming on at 70, 75 minutes or whatever.
But I think the way we have set up at the moment is now Philogene is playing right out the left with Leif Davis coming inside and they're swapping over. So there's a chance for a relationship to build there, which sort of allows him maybe to play more in the way he wants to play out on the touchline. And I think there were signs even at Bromley on the ball, him and Leif Davis sort of interacting well and one coming inside, one going outside. So he's got a chance. But really, I think it sort of LJ mentioned in the comments, it's him and Philogene fighting out for that left-hand role. And that's all he is now. And Philogene is well ahead for me in that
he is.
position. And Jack Clark's the bench option who will finish the games. And if he can come on and do well and score some goals, create some goals from there, he might be able to get himself into the team.
Yeah,
Philogene just looks confident. All right, perhaps not quite any end product yet, but he just looks confident. He's not afraid to try things, is he?
Not afraid to fry an overhead kick in front of the North Stand.
Well, no, he's not. Well, okay, he's not then. But you can see that Clark, even I think someone said in our Telegram chat this week, even when he kind of got the goal against Southampton, he kind of looked embarrassed because he obviously took a swing at the ball. It wasn't his, but it was deflected out of it. He kind of looked embarrassed that he didn't put it in, sort of thing. So yeah, he's a young lad, bereft of confidence. We all know he's a good player. We all know his quality. You just don't lose it. Well, they say form is temporary, isn't it? You just don't lose it. But I think Rich, now is perhaps the time. Take him out the firing line and make him a finisher, perhaps for a few games.
Yep. Joe, I'm going to wrap 3 questions in one because I'm efficient. LJ says, guesses on the number 9 that will sign, assuming there's one to come in. Otherwise, I'll be very disappointed. Collins, as he tends to do from time to time, lobbed in Sargent from Norwich. And Joe I has lobbed in Paddy Bamford on a free for backup for Hurst. I mean, any of those names excite you, Joe, or any others that you want to chuck in the mix?
I think there was somebody put in the comments earlier, it's like, do we need a backup for Hurst or do we need an upgrade from Hurst? And I think, whilst I wouldn't say we need an upgrade from Hurst, I think we need somebody who is of at least a similar level of ability. We like Patrick Bamford. Yeah, he's been a very, very good striker in the Championship, but he's not what we need anymore. I don't think there. Josh Sargent, absolute no. We're not going to get a deal done with Norwich between now and next week, and I don't think we want to either. I think he's good enough. He's a good player, and if we did have him, he'd be a good player. But it just isn't going to happen. I say I like Ivanovic, a Millwall striker, as a young kid's Serbian, 19, 20, had another good game yesterday when they won again. But yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult to find people out there. There's Salek from Cardiff, who came in the January window for them last year, scored 8 goals in the second half of the season of the Championship. They got relegated. He's probably available, but for these guys, I'm talking like Ivanovic, you're probably talking like 15 million quid. You're talking 9 million quid for the guy from Cardiff. So it's big money. Obviously, the Azon deal was the one we wanted to be the guy to compete with George Hurst. I think Akpom, we saw how he was used yesterday. We see what sort of player is. He isn't the sort of number 9 leader, the sort of line leading number 9. Him and Smodics are going to be the battling it out for that role along sort of to play with the striker. But we need a line leader out there, and who, I don't know. Like I said, I've said some names over the course of these podcasts over the last few months of what we're looking for, and none of them have come off so far. None of them have really been linked. And the only one that we seem to have had real solid interest in is Ivan Azon, and we got right to the very, very end of that deal and didn't get it over the line because of reasons.
Yeah. Any chance of a Premier League loanee towards the end of the window there, and under 21 that we don't know the name of?
I guess so. And like we were linked at the start of the window with that Divan Mubama, is it, who's gone to Stoke, and he scored in the first 2 goals of the season and has also looked really, really good. And I think he's one that we maybe have missed out on to an extent.
Like Coney as well.
He could have been. He got sent off yesterday, didn't he?
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Well, he got sent off at.
Didn't matter, did it? Good old Stoke. Yeah. Good.
Mikel Antonio, anybody?
Stranger things.
It's just how long is it going to take to get up to speed for him?
Yeah.
If he was as good as he was when we played him at the
absolute
sort of London Stadium last year, he absolutely bullied us.
Oh, he schooled us, didn't he? I see he played for their 21s, didn't he, last week? Did I see that?
Yeah, a couple of times he has now.
Yeah.
Well, I think thank you to everyone in the questions. There's loads come in. Apologies to Josh, to David, to BSE Blue, to Joe, Cook, Neil Perks, Paul P, Frenchie. I haven't had time to answer to pose your question to the guys, but really excellent conversation there. Looking ahead to the week to come, I guess I'm always the one who's trying to find the positive spin on everything. I know that we'll get that from Joe, but Dave, I want to give you the opportunity to kind of come in and just give a state of the nation and try to reassure folk. I think we've done a pretty decent job of talking about the facts and talking about the context of where we find ourselves. And it does feel like a few, as we keep saying, a few more signings to come in, but just that familiarity and confidence, things will turn around. Of course they will, won't they?
The squad's too good for that. It is early days. 3 games in. Big important game coming up next weekend.
Yeah.
I think a very important game coming up this week, Ben. But Rich. But that's how good a job you've done tonight. So seamless, absolutely seamless. No, it's been a tough start. We are now. It's a totally different to 2023-24 when perhaps let's put momentum to one side. We're kind of an unknown quantity as such. Now we're a big scalp, the biggest scalp. Everyone will want to put one over, especially when we go away. So I think we've perhaps got to expect more of the similar sort of coming up against the likes of Preston, more of that, certainly when we go away this season. And let's hope we can find ways to counter that. And I'm sure we will, because the quality of squad is there for all to see.
Yeah, good stuff, Dave. Thank you for your insight, your calm, rational analysis as always. Joe, it's, as much as we've talked about the squad on paper, we talked about, potentially some big signings coming in. It's a big week of just hard work, isn't it? On and off the field. Mark Ashton, someone asked a question, he's got to be looking at this and thinking, I've got a role to play here to help things out. But it's this hard work on the training ground that kind of turns this around. Give your state of the nation before we say goodbye.
Yes, it's just a big week. And like I say, Leicester and Southampton are in a similar position to us, but I guess we're in a better position because we've made our sales earlier. So we are now only looking for incomings rather than dealing with outgoings and trying to get some incoming sorted from there. So we have a clear run at this week, and we've just got to make the most of it, haven't we? And I'm hoping that I'll see you, Rich, probably for a couple more transfer specials. The Blue Monday transfer special klaxon will be going off midweek a couple of times this week. So. And sort of by this time next week, we're sitting here thinking, oh yeah, it'd be in a position rather than we still need 3 tomorrow. It'll be, we just need one more sort of cherry on the cake, as opposed to sitting here really sweating this time next week, hoping that we still need 1 or 2 more.
Yeah, good stuff. Thank you, everyone who's got involved in the chat. Great to have you here. Hope we've done the job. If I've sailed us too far towards HMS Pistol League and a little bit more rational, pragmatic thought is needed, let us know in the comments. Be constructive, as always. Try and avoid the emotion if you can. But we know football's an emotional sport, and hopefully some positivity to come this week. As we say, plenty of stuff coming your way, either on our top tier membership or free to access content. As Joe says, hopefully the transfer klaxon will sound at least once before Derby, but we'll have plenty of conversation around that game next week. Thank you once again, everyone, for getting involved. Look after yourselves. Have a great week, and we'll see you all soon.